everyone. Welcome to episode number 4 of Faith at Home. I'm Bridget Faya, and I'm here with Ben McMullen and with Jake Pearson, and together we're your family ministry team at Faith Community. This past Sunday, Pastor Tim, the Prince, wrapped up a sermon series called Who Do You Say? And it looked specifically at the trial of Jesus. If you didn't hear last week's sermon, just click the link below and watch it.
In this passage that Pastor Tim taught from, Jesus is on trial before Pilate. Pilate, if you remember, was the Roman governor who was able to free Jesus or sentence him to death. He declares Jesus innocent 3 times. He said, "I find no guilt in him." What's going on here? Why did Jesus have to die?
The Jewish religious leaders were taunting Pilate. They said, "If you release this man, you are not a friend of Caesar's, who was the ruler of Rome." And guess what? Pilate sort of freaked out. He freaked out because he was an ambitious man afraid of losing his power. He did not want to look bad in front of the other political leaders.
So Jesus was put to death partially because Pilate feared what other powerful people thought of him. He was afraid of losing his place in leadership.
Pilate was not the only one to blame for wrongly sentencing Jesus. Caiaphas, the man who handed Jesus over to Pilate, committed an even greater wrong.
Caiaphas, a Jewish leader, had always believed that God was king. Yet in this passage, Caiaphas says he believes in no king but Caesar, who was a mere man, just a Roman ruler. The crazy thing is that Caiaphas wants Jesus killed for saying he is king, and yet Caiaphas cannot see his own spiritual blindness by stating he believes Caesar is the only king.
There's something else here to consider. Pilate actually wanted to let Jesus go, but Jesus refused to answer his questions. Could it be that Jesus ended up dying because he carried out what God had planned for him?
The answer to that question is yes. Although Pilate thinks his decision is what ultimately matters, really, Jesus is being obedient to the will of the Father by submitting to his own death, knowing that he was the sacrifice and payment for our sin.
Now, up until this point, we've been talking about Pilate and Caiaphas, but Pastor Tim asked us to think about what it would have been like to be Barabbas. Barabbas was a robber, he was a man who would cause problems, and was now in jail waiting to be punished for his crimes. He was to be beaten, dragged out, and hung from a cross because he was guilty of his crimes. Instead, the jail door opened and he was set free. Jesus, an innocent man, was the one who was punished for the one who was guilty.
Ultimately, Jesus died because he believed that was the only way to defeat evil and to set his people free from the bondage of sin. Jesus died to save the guilty. He died to save people like Barabbas, people like you and people like me.
That is why Jesus took up the cross rather than hiding from it. He transformed the cross into a symbol of love and peace. His death on the cross became the path of victory for all of us.
We're going to ask you the same question that Pastor Tim asked this Sunday. The question is, who do you say Jesus is? How you answer that question matters deeply. Will you receive Jesus as your Lord and Savior? John 1:12 says, "But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God." If you haven't already received him, will you do so today?
Well, that's it for this week's edition of Faith at Home. If you're watching this video on social media, click the link that goes with this post and head over to our website for the family talking points. If you're watching this video on our website, simply scroll down below the video to see the family talking points and more. And please join us this Easter Sunday as we live stream worship at 9 and 11. Together, we'll celebrate who Jesus is, our risen Savior. See you then.